Hello, everyone, and welcome in. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Today, we are here to continue on with some sleepers, breakouts, and busts. And joining me to do that is Jon Shearer. Jon, thank you for joining me. First time, good to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm a big fantasy guy. Love fantasy football like everybody else. I live and die on it. So I'm excited about this.
I fucking hate fantasy football. It's the thing of my existence. I love it now, but you come to me at the end of week one or halftime of week one when I've lost half my players to injury, and I hate this shit. This shit has taken years off my life.
I'm always the lucky guy that my guys are always healthy. Regular season, every year I have the Peyton Manning effect. Oh man, I'm great in the regular season. As soon as the playoffs come, oh man, my guys are all injured. The year Kareem Hunt, kicked a woman, allegedly kicked a woman in the stomach. I was undefeated. And then he decided to have that happen. And all my running backs got hurt all in the playoffs at the same time. And I got curb stomped in the playoffs, right out of the playoffs. So, that's my luck in fantasy football is the playoffs. Everybody gets injured or Kareem Hunt kicks a woman.
When the mad scientist is eventually put into a mental home for the rest of his life, when they ask me what got me here, there will be two things. First on the list, ex-wife. Second on the list will be sports, mainly fantasy football, in that order. All right, well, before we get into it, do you want to take a second here to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, so I'm on NFL Alumni Media. Our flagship show of Sideline Sports is on the NFL Alumni Media, run by Gus Frerotte, former NFL quarterback. Lawrence Taylor, LT, the great LT, is on there. Anthony Munoz, Amon Green, a bunch of different great players are on there. So we're also on there with Dave DeRoche, who played for the Seattle Seahawks. We also have a Seahawks show coming out with Walter Thurman III, former Seattle Seahawks champion, and Trey Madden, former Seattle Seahawks. So if you find me on Sideline Sports, you see behind me, and Blue Hawks 13 on Twitter, just among the many, many different places as I continue my career in the media field.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Your first player is your sleeper. That would be Detroit rookie tight end Sam Laporta. Fantasy Pros has him projected as tight end 17. No rushing stats projected. 39.4 receptions, 431.2 receiving yards, and 3.2 touchdowns. What is it about Sam Laporta you like?
Yeah, I love this kid out of college. And I call the running backs and tight ends specifically, I call them the boneyards. So when you're drafting receivers, you can find in the regular season, you can find them off the street. Quarterbacks, you can find off the street. Kickers, defenses, you can find them off the street and kind of stream them if you need to off of injury. Tight ends are extremely hard to find. Them and running backs are extremely hard to find whenever it comes to finding a legit one, or at least one that can get you by. And I feel like Sam Laporta is a guy who's already making waves in training camp. He's a guy that, maybe he's not going to be a top 5 guy, but I feel like he could be a top 12 guy, which you could probably get undrafted or the very end of your draft. You can get a guy like that, and he'll probably get you, it says 431 yards. He'll probably get you 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, Zylstra last year caught 3 touchdowns in a game. They love throwing to their tight ends.
Fantasy Pros is really conservative with everything, not just him. So
yeah, and so when you can get any tight end that can get you 500 yards, 4 to 5 touchdowns, and remember this: if it's not George Kittle, if it's not Travis Kelce, if it's not Mark Andrews, if it's not Darren Waller, that's when it really goes off the cliff after a majority of those type of guys. And then everybody kind of becomes muddy with the tight ends. And so everybody's looking for these type of guys. I love Sam Laporta and what he can bring. He's not going to get you top 5 numbers, but if you give me top 12 and I can draft him at the end of my draft, I'll take that all day. And he's a big body guy.
I loved him during rookie season. He was my number 2 tight end in the rookie class behind Michael Mayer. Then the draft rolled around, and I said, oh, this is awesome. He goes to Detroit. That's a great fit. He's going to have a shot to produce early. Everyone's on Dalton Kincaid because they're overvaluing that Buffalo landing spot and forgetting Knox is there. I said, oh, this is wonderful. I'm going to have a ton of Laporta, and I'm going to have a ton of Michael Mayer. Well, I have none of Laporta because he just went so high. He went from where I was drafting him in the end of the second round or middle of the third. He was going in a couple of my home leagues. He went end of the first round, and I said, no, I get it. Pitts, Bauer, high-end tight end prospects. I will not use a first-round rookie pick on a tight end. I believe I wrote an article talking about that earlier for DLF. Anyways, so Laporta is someone I don't own a lot of. I think I've gotten a few shares of him in redraft just because I've missed on tight end because it's going tight end and quarterback are going earlier than ever before. And I've been on like Scott Fishbowl. I got on the end of some runs there and I missed out on all the elite tight ends. So I have a few where I've had him late. He is going on NFFC as tight end 19, 176 overall. This range, this is why I do have some shares of him. Typically, if I miss on the top ones, I have some Schultz, some Dulcich, Higbee, Kincaid, Everett, and Laporta. Those are my 6 where if I miss the top 6 or 7 here, I pepper 2 or 3 of these late 6 here. They always seem to fall. I even have a few shares of Mayer. I don't, Kincaid.
And I feel like
Go ahead.
I feel like the names you mentioned are all really interchangeable. They feel like all the names are kind of all in the same ballpark, roughly the same production.
Yep, and that's why I'm just stacking them late when I miss out early. But Kincaid is someone I'm out on. He is going 30 picks earlier than Laporta here, and I'm just completely out. So I like Laporta. I think he has he's more expensive than Mayer significantly, but I think he has a better so he's got a better outlook for this year than Mayer does, and he's significantly cheaper than Kincaid is for this year. So that's why he's kind of the rookie tight end I've been targeting a bit. I don't really have a lot of shares of him. Like I said, I don't like overpaying for rookies, let alone rookie tight ends. What do you think of this range here once we get outside the top 12? It's kind of dart throw territory, and it gets ugly quick.
So let me ask you this. What do you think about Washington in Pittsburgh? We've seen Pat Freiermuth have some concussion issues, and it's a 2 tight end set, right? And if anything happens to Freiermuth, Kenny Pickett, a guy likes to check down sometimes, and he's a big guy, has looked really good. Might not be a bad guy to take a flyer on. Maybe if he's still available after your draft.
Yeah, he's way down here. He's definitely still available. I don't even know where he is in the ADP.
I just feel like a guy like that that's so talented.
297 overall, tight end 71. He was, I think, my tight end 4 in the rookie class coming into the combine. I don't like where he's at. So you have to bank on a Freiermuth injury for him to even get a sniff. And then after that, he just seems like one of those guys where they're going to use him more as a blocker than a pass catcher. And that offense isn't that great. I mean, he's free and you can get him on waivers.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
He's someone I think I'd rather have him on a taxi squad in Dynasty than worrying about picking him up off of waivers in redraft. I feel like too, the second, if he does become relevant in redraft this year, it's going to be a fight to get him on the waiver wire. So I'll probably just end up waiting for him. He's not someone I'm going to have even in the last round of any drafts. I don't know. He's big and athletic and scary looking. So, it's quite an impressive athletic profile. Everything that happened after the combine kind of scared me. So I'm off of him. All right, let's move on to your breakout.
Yeah.
Get that up there. That would be another tight end. A guy I was really in on last year when I got him on waivers everywhere. That would be Tennessee tight end Chigo Okonkwo, projected as tight end 13, no rushing stats noted, 47.8 receptions for 584.2 receiving yards and 3.7 touchdowns. Why are you in on Chig as your breakout?
Look, this guy was he ran less than 50% of the passing routes last year, and he still produced at a high rate. He was really good in fantasy, and I feel like they don't really have a whole lot of options to throw to. Obviously, we know of Derrick Henry, but I think Ryan Tannehill is going to be the guy until an injury happens. Ryan Tannehill is going to be the guy. Tannehill's still got a big arm. He's great in the play action game. It seemed like him and Akwanku were in rhythm until that injury against the Chargers. Until Tannehill got injured against the Chargers, that's when Akwanku's stats really took a dive. Is when Tannehill went down. He stopped being as effective. He had Malik Willis in there as his quarterback, and he really fell off a cliff. And it was a shame because he was starting to break out, and he looked like one of those guys where, like you said, picked him off the waiver wire, and you're like, wow, this guy's big. Where did he come from? And he looks really good. And then Tannehill got hurt, and you were hoping that he could continue the production, but as a rookie in an offense where it's all predicated on Derrick Henry, it was hard for that production to continue. But with Tannehill being healthy and him in his second year, I love this kid. I think he's going to. I don't think he's going to hit 1,000, but I think he could hit 700-800 yards and be a big red zone guy where they really need that. I love him. I'm all in on him. I think he could even be a top 10 tight end overall, maybe 9-10, break into that area in his second year, which I would love that. I mean, again, I'm a guy where if you don't give me those elite guys, then you really got to do your homework to find a non-elite guy, right? Because all those guys start to become interchangeable. And I think Kwanku slides right in there. I'm a guy that's all out on Pitts. After what happened last year, what I've seen with Arthur Smith, with Kyle Pitts, guy like that, you can overdraft Kyle Pitts. Go ahead, take him. Like, I'm all out on that. And that's where Kwanku slides right into there. He takes over that spot. Everybody's overdrafting Pitts. And then I'll take a Kwanku, and he can slide right in, right end, 9th, 10th. I'll take that all day.
Hopkins signing doesn't scare you at all?
Not at all, because I actually think that helps. I think he's the decoy. I don't think he's going to be as great as he once was. I think he's lost a step. I've said that many times over shows. And I think he's the decoy, and he's going to have to take double coverage. You're going to have to do that because D-Hop. And then I think that leaves a guy like Akwanku open because you're going to have to put 7 in the box against Derrick Henry. And that whenever they do go play action, which Ryan Tannehill's great at, it's going to leave a lot of opportunities for their pass catchers. And they're going to love Hopkins, and they're going to love Akwanku, their top 2 targets to throw to. So I'm all in on this guy's here. He's my ride or die at tight end this year.
I loved him last year. Got him on waivers a bunch before he was the thing. This says he's tight end 12. I feel like I checked this out the other day, and I think he's dropped more like tight end 14 or 15 recently. I don't know. He athletically, the profile is there. He was a part-time player. That scares me. This offense sucks.
But Austin Hooper did leave. That was because Austin Hooper was there, and he left. So now he's the number 1 tight end.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag of things I like and things I don't like. I don't know. He's someone where if he falls more into the 15 range, I think I'll take him. But he's been going top 12 significantly earlier, like 128. I think he's a guy I'd rather wait on. I'd rather wait and take Laporta, 50 picks later. It's not to say I'm out on him.
You're just not going to reach guy. For him.
I'm just, he's in that range where I've cooled off. The end, from Evan Engram up here at 8 all the way down to probably Chig so from 90 to 130, that's normally a range where I'm not really targeting a tight end unless one really falls. I don't know. I find that's a range in the draft where I'm not going after a tight end, and he always goes earlier than this projection. I'm trying to think if there's any drafts I've done recently that are redraft where he would have gone already. I'm in 4 or 5 drafts, but they're all either unique rules or they're not far enough that he's gone. So I don't really have any reference, and I don't want to be flipping through 19 different screens of drafts I have going on. So I don't know.
See, I'm the type that I kind of go with the flow of the draft. So if so I'll look at everybody else's draft, and I'm in a 10-team league. So if I see 8 teams have taken their tight end, I can wait on this guy because I'm like, okay, they've taken their tight ends. They're probably most people don't draft 2 tight ends in a 10-team draft. You're probably not doing that unless it's the very end and you're like, wow, I can waste my last pick in the draft on this guy or
See,
that guy. So
maybe that's the difference. I don't have any 10-team leagues. Like I'm in. Okay, so I'm in the FFCC right here. I'm it's an expert league or an analyst league. We're about to finish. Oh, I'm on the clock. We're about to finish round 10 once I make 2 picks here. They have this league I haven't picked in 3 days because there's 3 or 4 people from overseas who spend their entire time on the clock. So I haven't picked in 3 days. I've been in the show for 15 minutes and I'm on the clock because of course. But so anyways, my point was it's tight end premium. We're about to end the 10th round and start the 11th. We are at the cutout where he is likely the next tight end to go. Schultz is off the board, and if I click on it, sure enough, Okonkwo is the next one on the board. So, like I said, 10. So that's one. We're in the. What was his ADP? 128. So yeah, this is probably the range in the draft where he is going to go 10 and 11. Most of the teams already have a tight end. But I would imagine, like, I'm not going to take him here. I have a tight end already. I'm going to go wide receiver, running back on the turn. But I look and there are 1, 2, there's 3 teams here without a tight end. And I would venture that when this gets back to me in the 12th round, he will be long gone off the board. And that's why I don't have him. He just seems to go in this range where I'll take my 2 picks and then he's long gone before he gets back to me. So I think it's just where he goes is why I don't have him a whole lot.
That's fair.
All right. Let's have some fun here. Give me 1 second. We're going to
take your
sidetrack the
time.
show. I've never actually got to be on the clock in a show before. I've done 50-something drafts this season, and I've never been on the clock. So
That's why you always tune into this show. Anybody that's listening, you always tune into this show because you never know what you're going to find.
It's super flex. I already have Dak and Russ. I have a tight end. So unless a quarterback as my third quarterback has really fallen in value, I think I want to go wide receiver running back here. CJ Stroud is not really worth it. That leaves my top options being Chig, Trey Burke. So it's the Tennessee Titans show. We have Khalil Herbert. Ugh, this is ugly. I'm going to switch over to the flex options here. What do we got? This is ugly.
I hate when you get to that area where you're like, oh, wow, everybody's just awful. And I really don't want to take any of these, but you're kind of forced.
I'm going to get to make 2 picks here. And I think what I normally end up doing is I'll take a running back and a wide receiver, and then I'll wait and I'll get Greg Dulcich when he comes back to me. So
that's yeah, I love that. I love that guy. If Russell Wilson is old Russell Wilson, yeah.
And I have Russ on my team, so it's not a bad backdoor stack. But see, that's the difference of why I have no Chig. That extra 10 picks of ADP is the difference between me being on another position and me saying, nah, screw it, I'll take him.
Yeah, I wouldn't reach for him. I wouldn't reach for him either. But if he falls into your lap, you're not upset about it.
This is ugly. I've scrolled freaking 15 players down, and I don't see anyone I like. Treylon Burks and Khalil Herbert. Is this really where I'm going?
Oh. Reaching for those 2 is
but they're the highest left on the board, and then we have quarterback. I could take Jordan Love. Jordan Love, CJ Stroud. Oh, this is a terrible spot. I don't think I've never got to make back-to-back picks and said, oh, I don't like either of these. I am going to go with what are your thoughts? Rashad Bateman?
Oh, I hate Bateman this year. He's so inconsistent. And
I don't mind Sky. I like Sky more, but his ADP's another like 2 rounds. I should be able to get him on the next turn.
I just hate in Kansas City that you never know who's getting the ball. Play to play, game to game, week to week. I hate that you never. I mean, Jerick McKinnon could catch 3 touchdowns one game and then not catch a touchdown for 4 games. Like, you just don't know in that offense. Except for Travis Kelce, you don't know who's getting the ball from Patrick Mahomes.
I went with Burks and Herbert because I have a show to do here, so we have to get back into it.
Of course, yeah, do your thing.
So let's get right back into it here after my little sidetrack, and we will get to your final player, your bust. I wish he was still on the board in the 12th round for me, but he wasn't, even if he is your bust. That would be Cleveland running back Nick Chubb, projected to be RB5, 1,365.4 rushing yards for 9.2 touchdowns, 27.5 receptions, 234.4 on the receiving yards, and 1.1 receiving touchdowns. Why are you out on the Chubb?
I like the way you said that.
Yeah, so I was trying to be funny. You know, I do what I can.
Before Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb had 6 100-yard games. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 touchdowns, 6 100-yard games before Deshaun Watson played football for the Cleveland Browns. Once Deshaun Watson started playing, Nick Chubb had 0 rushing touchdowns for the Cleveland Browns and 1 100-yard rushing game at Washington, the second to last game of the season. He did get a nice amount of carries, but he wasn't getting the 26 carries. He wasn't getting a super heavy workload. He did have one game where he had 24 carries against New Orleans, but that was the game where basically nobody was allowed to throw the football because the weather was just terrible and the wind was like 30 or 40 miles an hour. And that game was just awful to watch. 17-10 game. So he really didn't get as many opportunities. Once Deshaun Watson came, he had 0 rushing touchdowns, hit 100 yards one time. He doesn't catch the football, which, I mean, I love Nick Chubb, right? He's a great player. And last year, for me, he fell in the 4th round, which was amazing. But with Deshaun Watson there, Njoku is going to become extremely important. Amari Cooper was important before Deshaun Watson came. He's going to be super important this year in that offense. Donovan Peoples-Jones will be a nice player. But I think the odd man out's going to be Nick Chubb. I think still he's going to be a really good player. I think he's going to get 1,000 yards. But the guy that gets 3 touchdowns in a game against the Jets or 2 touchdowns in a game against the Chargers, I think that guy's gone. I think Deshaun Watson's going to eat up a lot of the plays in general. And I think that with Nick Chubb not catching a lot of passes, he's going to lose the passing downs when Deshaun Watson's, throwing the football. I just don't like his ADP. I don't like that he got 1,500 yards last year, and that looks really good going into this year. But if you break down again the numbers with Deshaun Watson, he didn't do anything for you, especially in the fantasy playoffs. He did nothing for you. I had him, and obviously you had to rely on him because he's Nick Chubb, and he just continually let you down. It's not his fault when Deshaun Watson is the focal point of the offense. Of course, he's going to be with all that guaranteed money. Nick Chubb is going to be the guy that he's still going to be a good player, but I don't think he's going to be worth the ADP. 0 rushing touchdowns. He doesn't catch a football at all. So if it's PPR or I play half-point PPR, he just kills you right there. He loses value right there. If you're playing non-PPR, I mean, you're in an ancient league anyway. You have to play PPR in today's day and age. So Nick Chubb really loses a lot of value, even though running backs are at a premium because Josh Jacobs' situation and guys like that, their situation, Nick Chubb still isn't very valuable because of all these things I mentioned. And I hate that because I love the guy that he is. I love them in fantasy the past couple years. It's hard to trust him with Deshaun Watson running the offense and seeing what he did for 6 games of not hitting pay dirt. It's really hard to trust him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've never been a Chubb guy, even in his heyday. He was always, it's the one dimensionality of him.
Yeah.
He was never someone where I wanted, even when he was rushing for 1,500 yards, 2,000 yards, he always just went, it was a case of, I'll take him in the 2nd round if he falls, or the 3rd round if he falls. He never falls to where I say, I'd rather take him over, the Mixons, the dual threat guys. I don't ever have him. I don't anticipate that changing this year. I see his ADP was running back 5, 16 overall. I think I have a couple of shares of him this year because I don't find that to be accurate. At that price, I'm way out. But I've had him fall to me in the 3rd and 4th a few times. So the leagues where he falls, I'll take him. But at that price, you're right. I'm out.
And depending on your draft, I mean, you might be able to take him in the 3rd or 4th. You might be able to sway it and say, okay, I've got 2 running backs already. If he's my 3rd running back, I'm not upset. But I don't even think I would want him to be my 2nd running back just because I'm not guaranteed the volume. I get no receiving work. And Deshaun Watson probably is getting first opportunity in the red zone before Nick Chubb. From what I saw last year, Deshaun Watson got more priority, and this was Nick Chubb's team before Deshaun Watson. So I'm all out on him this year. He bust written all over him.
I agree 100%. All right, John, you want to take a second here to tell us once again where we can find you?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. I truly do appreciate you giving me the time and the platform. Sideline Sports, you can find us Sideline Sport 1 on Twitter, on all our social media handles, Sideline Sport 1. Check us out on YouTube, all the places where you can find all those places. NFL Alumni Media, search for us on there, run by Gus Farrat and that great team over there. And then Blue Hawks 13 on Twitter. You can find me on there tweeting about the Orioles, Dolphins, or just football in general, or sports in general. I'm a big sports guy, much like you. I love this stuff. I live and die for it, covering Super Bowls and everything. That's my life. So, yeah, find me on there. And, I'm always happy to talk with anybody about sports.
All right. This has been Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts with Jon Shearer. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again to John for joining me. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care and have a great night, everyone. See you later.